Welcome back to the Automotive Artistry Podcast. Well, now we're on episode 57, and my next guest is Austin Paruch. Austin has a great background in metal shaping, fabrication, and really more. He's an interesting guy, and if you check him out on Instagram, you'd be able to see a lot of the stuff that he does. There's a little bit more to him than that. He's also got the Motovator coffee brand, where he's actually it's cool what he has in mind. He wants to use a portion of that to help with the education of our industry, help support the trades, people that are learning, people that want to get into it. It's a great cause, and we really cover a lot of bases on this episode. We get into a little bit of some technical stuff in metalwork, some of his preferences and the equipment that he uses, with his background, and what really brought him to doing this coffee brand. He's an interesting guy, and definitely looks like he has the right motivation to do what he's doing right now. So I really enjoyed this episode, and Austin, thanks for taking the time. It was a great time, and in the future, we'll do a part two. This episode is all audio, so no video this time, but you know what? We're working to that. We're building the studio right now. We're making some great progress in there. So I think we're going to be able to have more in studio episodes soon, but it's all a work in progress. So thanks for everyone who's been supporting this journey. Now let's get started on this next episode. Which this is Austin Paruch. Austin, how you doing, man?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's I think when I first kind of got on my radar there for a little bit was after I had done a podcast with why am I drawing a blank on him right now?
From up here?
Yeah.
Trent?
Yes, Trent Lewis,
Sure.
Midwest Metalworks. There, it's all coming back to me right now. But I had you got on my radar there around that time. I think he had mentioned you a little bit, and I've been diving down into a lot of the metal shaping world, and so I'm now my Instagram and all my social media is starting to pick up more on that kind of stuff. So it's really interesting to see the stuff you do. So I'd really like to kind of dig down in your beginnings before we really get into some cool metal shaping talk and stuff, and some of your brands and stuff like that. But
Sure.
what got you into the industry? How far back do we go with you?
Man, we can go a long way. So you brought up Trent, and he and I have a kind of a similar origin story. I believe he went to art school. So did I. I started my kind of career path post high school by going to art college with a sculpture major. Didn't really know what else to do. I was interested in cars, but I was like, I don't know why I didn't totally have it on my radar to get into, stuff like coach building, stuff like that. I guess I thought I was only for, Jesse James on TV or something. So that's what I did. I went through 4-year college program and, did great in my sculpture classes, but just did horrible and everything else.
Yeah.
Not that I couldn't, I just did not apply myself.
So your mind just wasn't
interesting.
like it was an interesting thing to you, but it like wasn't really clicking yet, or
College, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, I did great with my art and sculpture classes. I just didn't. It wasn't the place for me at the time, and I was just I was in my quarter life crisis, I guess you could say. Just kind of lost trying to figure out where I fit.
Yeah.
So
I
don't think that's altogether uncommon for.
Oh, for sure, especially
for
like
guys in our position.
The formidable years of your life. I mean, I could say similar things of stuff that I was like as I was coming up. It's like I was doing this thing, but like I wasn't that interested yet, or like wasn't applying myself the way I probably should have been.
Sure.
And
Yeah,
it's like
same.
whatever that thing that eventually clicked and got me into it.
Yeah. Bear in
Uh,
mind, like as a hobby at this time, like my buddy and I were restoring a CJ5
huh.
we pulled out of a field we bought for like $200, and it's just something we were doing on the weekends. But we were just, going to college during the day and driving out to his family's shop um, on the weekends and the evenings on Friday and stuff, and just building this Jeep. So it's something I've been into. I've been reading Hot Rod magazine since I was like 5.
Mm-hmm.
So like all those tutorials in there, I scoured through all those. I probably knew how to do a lot more
Well,
right out of the gate because I'd seen it for so many years just in
yeah.
pictures and photos and stuff.
Well, I'm interested in this art school thing because like this is a common denominator with a lot of us. Like, because I've had airbrush artists and all that stuff, and like a
Hmm.
similar story happens where like they weren't that interested,
Yep.
and some of it was maybe the subject matter or what they were making, and then when they started doing the thing that they like they found that thing that like they were more interested, even though it was kind of in the same realm.
Yeah.
Uh, did they have you just like what kind of sculptures were you doing during?
It was really wide open. They had assignments where you would learn certain things. Like I did everything from wood carving to ceramics to bronze castings, um, and all
Mm-hmm.
over the place. There were requirements for painting and drawing classes as well as sculpture classes, and some of them were more like craft skills based. Like
Mm-hmm.
here, at least in the entry level, it's like, okay, can you use these materials and get this
Yeah.
result, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like in a very rudimentary level, I remember them like grading us on like we made something out of like mat board, right? Like
Okay.
were your miters nice and tight? Was it like what was your level of fit and finish? Basically, was
Mm-hmm.
was what they were training in that in that instance. But the actual coursework, I wish I could come up with an exact
Hmm.
like assignment, but like I just remember some of the stuff I did, and it seemed pretty loose, at
Mm-hmm.
least in the sculpture department, right?
Okay.
Like it'd be, we're going to work with these materials, and it's got to be this big and be doable in this amount of time. But other than that, like make it, we're going to critique it, and then move on to the next one.
Did they let you? I mean, you're saying it was pretty open. So then most of the projects were you pretty much able to make what you wanted as long as it was in that field of whatever you guys were studying?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, they didn't tell you so much what to make. I mean, I have
Okay.
figurative things that I carved out of wood, abstract metal things that I did. I think technically in my first exposure to an English wheel, I didn't even know what it was. It was just sitting in the corner of the sculpture studio.
Oh.
One of the guys had built one. Was when I was there,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember talking to the professor about it. He's like, "Yeah, I think these are how they used to build cars," and he didn't know much about it either because he was more of a like a his art medium was cast
Okay.
metals.
Yeah.
So he knew metal, but he didn't necessarily know metal shaping.
Mm-hmm.
So it was interesting. I learned a ton of stuff. I had a lot of exposure to different welding practices, right?
Uh-huh.
So while my friends were off in their science lab class or whatever, I was
Yeah.
cutting metal with fire and you know
Yeah. Yeah.
getting to do
Yeah.
cool stuff.
That's
TIG
cool.
welding, oxyacetylene welding.
Oh.
The foundry class was super interesting, learning to a limited extent some metallurgy.
Mm-hmm.
But at least in the undergrad program, you kind of get more of a broad base. And if you were to go to grad school or continue on your own, that's where you refine your knowledge and kind of develop the rest.
Yeah. And when they have you doing all these different things, did you ever find yourself like working on something and just not interested and like thinking like, I don't know why I'm doing this or anything like that? Like,
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It was the reason I chose it is just because I knew working with my hands was in my future,
yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
making stuff has always felt good,
Mm-hmm.
but um, I think in that environment, I learned that I was less of an artist
Okay.
and more of a craftsman,
Mm-hmm.
um, which came out later.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily, there's a difference, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there's the guy that designs the car and he's the artist, and the craftsman is the guy that turns it into reality.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm more the latter.
Yeah, you end up having a crossover, a little bit of both.
Sure. Yeah, there's creative processes involved.
Yeah.
But some people have this relentless desire to like express themselves through a
Everything.
medium.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
that's not necessarily my ambition.
Yeah.
Um,
And
I
sometimes
always
it's like you find the medium, like the
sure.
one that speaks to you.
Yep. Yep. So
And I only say that because like I remember in a lot of the classes that these art classes that I would take, I didn't take any in college, just middle school, high school, that kind of stuff. And they'd have you do some projects that you just weren't interested in, and I get frustrated at the time, and then now I look back and I'm like, yeah, but that kind of helped your creativity in other ways, and to look at something differently just because it's
yeah,
made of a different thing.
for sure. Sometimes they structure an assignment to kind of open you up to something you wouldn't normally do, which is kind of the point.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It pushes your brain out of this is what I do into this is another option or a different way.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if you can't relate it to what your interests are at the time, I think that can be problematic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So you said there was an English wheel in the class, and it kind of maybe that was your first exposure to the automotive, or some kind of automotive
Yeah,
touch to
well,
it.
yeah, at least in that environment.
Mm-hmm.
The magazines and stuff obviously were a big part of me, like sort of knowing and understanding what goes into the craft. But after my college experience, I did a bunch of stuff, construction, some factory work, a bunch of stuff that I just pretty much hated.
Mm-hmm.
And just found this technical program for restoration. I'm like, all right, man, I'm just going to go through this and see where I land.
This is
So I
through
did
the same
that.
school?
Different school,
Okay.
totally different school. I was out of school. So this is by the time I went back to school, I was already 20. I think I was 28.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay. So you said it was an automotive, like, restoration type program?
yeah, it was very specifically a restoration program. It covered all aspects from mechanical uh, through paint and body, and interior, kind of a little bit of everything. It was hard to get really in depth. I think when we first connected on this, we kind of talked about how some of the programs are kind of, they're catered towards the just pushing kids through and making money.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yep.
And I definitely had that experience there.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to gain knowledge and I had to fight for it. And I did get what I needed. I'd come in on the weekends and teach myself things on the English wheel. And, I fought to get placement at a Rolls Royce place. There was, hour and a half away, but it was worth it.
Yeah. How just going back to that school
Mm-hmm.
and the technical side of it, obviously they're trying to push people out. I've experienced that myself, and I've experienced classes where it's just very surface level, and that's not to say anything bad about them. It's just that there's a lot. I feel like in a lot of schooling, there's a lack of fundamentals that just, if they were there, I feel like it would make a world of a difference. Was that your experience in that school?
Yeah. So where they lacked, having people that have, at least in my realm, the metal skills.
Mm-hmm.
They had people who were good painters and upholstery shop guys and stuff like that. But um, to be able to present, fabrication skills and metal shaping skills with,
Yeah.
that was virtually non-existent.
Mm-hmm.
It was like here's a brake and here's a slip roller and like, you know.
Yeah.
That was about it.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, can you put a bead in make a crappy floor pan patch?
Mm-hmm.
That was like a legit assignment. So,
Well, the
um,
unfortunate side is, and this is me saying this as a painter, uh, is you can in these classes you can make something look real pretty, but you have no idea what's underneath that paint.
yeah, yeah, right, right. From the base out,
Mm-hmm.
from metal out, yeah. Um,
And from a
they
schooling,
they did they did cover the body pretty well.
okay,
They had a very strong like collision course there as well.
okay,
So I would say, they covered that pretty well.
yeah,
At least good enough to get guys in the door someplace,
mm-hmm.
um, to where they could carry that knowledge forward and build upon it.
Yeah, yeah. So then, so now you said you were going to Rolls Royce or trying to get into a Rolls Royce. Was this like a shop? Was this
Yeah, so it's a restoration facility. They did like brass era Rolls Royce stuff. Um, and it was interesting, right? So these are cars. Most of them that we worked on there were like wood carriages with metal skins
mm-hmm.
and just brass everywhere and bright work everywhere, like late 1800s, early 1900s
Yeah.
Rolls Royce restorations, and that was what they did. They manufactured parts and did restorations for Rolls Royce products.
That's a pretty unique avenue to go into.
Yeah, it was, and they had a relationship with the school and had funneled some of the better students
Mm-hmm.
through there. That at least the ones that fit. And I was one of those. It was cool. There's some interesting things there. I got to learn a lot. I got to build a lot of parts. You know, fabricate cool riveted gas tanks, and learn about um, um, like building radiators.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah.
All that kind of stuff. Soldering. The radiator shell together on those. It's all nickel plate. Order up some nickel plate, fit it and solder it together. And, they didn't build the cores there in house, but
mm-hmm.
like they would assemble the entire radiator. Um, I mean, just that alone is a massive learning curve.
Yeah, no,
you
I'm
know,
I'm I'm sitting here thinking like all the different niche things that like most people don't ever get exposed to in their entire career is something like working on a wooden body with an aluminum
yeah,
skin.
right. Yeah, and I did some help with that. When I was there, kind of floating, but I landed in the fab shop as my dominant place, and
Mm-hmm.
I did help periodically with some stuff in the wood shop, and they had an Amish gentleman there who was just amazing, and he did a lot of the wood for the cars, and just watching him was super cool. um, but yeah, there's within that place, I mean, there
Mm-hmm.
was probably 10 different like unique skill sets that were just incredibly important to
Mm-hmm.
to completing the projects.
Well, I mean, just that wood, building the inner structures for these bodies out of wood, like I've been fortunate to work on. I haven't done the woodwork myself, but like some pretty elaborate cars in that time period that they were
Hmm.
doing that, and it's pretty wild when you start seeing those internal structures. Like that is a I don't even know. I don't think I know anybody personally that does that for a living. Maybe my friend Rob Paddock, he might do a little bit of that. But that again, a very niche, very specific thing.
Yeah,
Uh,
for sure. I mean, there are probably a handful of guys that work at leading restoration shops that do that, but it's like I said, it's probably a literal handful, as like their dominant career path.
well, you mentioned too. It was an Amish gentleman, right? That
Yeah,
was
he was.
doing that. So like that,
Hmm.
if I remember right, just maybe some stuff I've seen on TV. They're pretty strong in the woodworking world.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool place, and they had some really talented guys there. They did outstanding work. You know, Pebble Beach quality stuff. I mean,
Wow.
very very good,
Hmm.
high level, top of the line restoration work.
Was it getting into that place? Was it pretty nervous for you, nerve wracking or anything to jump into that?
Um, Not really for me. Sorry, my air compressor is making a little noise. You got to
I
edit
can't
it.
hear it over here.
No,
You're good.
sorry,
Yeah.
I'm in the shop.
Hmm.
Um, you know, I don't tend to get nervous with that kind of stuff because
Hmm.
I trust my ability to learn and adapt.
Good. Yeah.
Um, and I
Yeah.
also, you know, I'm not the type of guy who's afraid to make a mistake and do it twice. You know,
Hmm.
um, that environment and other environments I've worked in, you know, there was usually a couple guys who were like, okay, man, like we know you can fit, but like whatever you screw up, like we can probably fix it, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, in the grand scheme of things, it's all just metal, it's all just wood, you
Hmm.
know, or whatever aspect of it's all just leather.
Yeah.
Whatever you're working on, it's not like it can be, you know, they're not going to let you screw it up bad enough that it can't be fixed.
Yeah.
If you're
Yeah.
that bad, they're going to kick you out of the shop.
You got to
So,
figure it out one way or another.
yeah. So I've always just been a kind of dive in and figure it out kind of guy. And um, I've never really been nervous in that environment.
Hmm.
Um, just because it's sort of it's like asking a fish if he's nervous to go swimming in a lake. You know, it's like, well, not really. I'm a pretty good swimmer. So,
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Good. Take it from a Florida boy. It's you
yeah.
gotta
Yeah.
you gotta everyone needs to know how to swim. I'm
Yeah,
telling
yeah.
you.
Well, that I need some help with. I can swim, but not well. I
Yeah.
got caught in a rip current down by you guys one time, and that was a little sketchy. So,
Oh yeah. I when I walk onto the beach I can spot all of them. that's
yeah, yeah,
that's
I was doing a little snorkeling, just looking at seashells and stuff. All of a sudden, I was moving really, really fast.
yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
So,
The seashells were the distraction.
yeah, yep, for sure,
Yeah,
for sure.
so you're at this shop. About how long did you have at this place?
So, I was probably there. I wasn't there all that long. Because I got the job there while I was in school, right? I
Mhm.
kind of dawned on me that the school I was in, I was like, if I wanted to land anywhere afterwards, I was going to need more more input.
Mhm.
So I fought for that job, got that job, and then I would say I was there for about a year.
Okay.
You know, I had a full time position waiting for me there if I
Yeah.
wanted it.
Mhm.
When I was done, at the time I was dating my wife,
Mhm.
long distance. She's in Wisconsin. I was out in Ohio.
Okay.
So you know, wanted to get back to her and
Mhm.
kind of start building a life with her. And a job opened up at a Ferrari shop in Wisconsin.
Oh.
Um, so interviewed for that, and that worked out. Um, and that's where I really picked up a lot of the metal skills. Just working with the guys, and they were supportive of my quest for knowledge. They help pay to go through Faye Butler's seminar.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Um, you know, that's where a lot of the development happened.
And how did they take you on? Did they take you on as like an apprentice? Like what was the
Um,
Connie here from the Working Class Women and a proud sponsor of today's episode. Back in 2019, we teamed up with Sada USA to create the Pro Series Ladies Paint Suit, the first paint suit designed specifically for women. Every feature was built to solve the problems we've dealt with in the traditional suits, starting off with the princess cut that gives you a tailored fit, no more baggy and oversized feel. We all know the anxiety that it brings when you're leaning over a panel. The built-in knee pads definitely add some comfort. The traditional zippers on each side that give you easy pocket access or even better airflow when you need it. The pinstripes that go down the suit are actually carbon fiber lines that help with the static control. These suits are also washable. And of course, you can find our original Girls Behind the Gun logo that's on the back. along with the goddess behind the gun design that's on the shoulder. And these aren't just gear. These are representing of progress. They've helped break down the barriers and make a real difference even in my own career. So grab yours today at aworkingclass.bigcartel.com or through your local SATA distributor. Are you outside the United States? Your best option is our online store. And ladies, just a reminder, you have a place in this industry too.
They threw me to the wolves. It's like, okay, you're in the fab shop. Like I replaced the guy that had been there for like 30 years,
Wow.
just like kind of like a local icon. He's like, he was the dude who probably had, 200 Ferrari restorations under his belt, just knew him inside and out. And he was really good at what he does. I think he wasn't so much a shaper as he was just like a really talented body man.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
But I remember they would have binders full of pictures of stuff they did over the years, and the amount of cars and the quality of cars that they did under that roof. That he and others were a part of is just mind-boggling. So big shoes to fill when I came in. Obviously didn't fill them right away, but I think I did.
Yeah.
Eventually. So yeah, good experience there. Definitely. It was kind of a stepping stone for me to go other places for sure.
So that's really where your eyes opened up to the automotive for the most part, right there, as far as metalwork.
Yeah. I mean, I was interested in it by then for sure, but that's where I got the most experience. Like, go build this door skin. We need this quarter panel made. Can you build a hood? Can you build this crazy, hood frame? Can you, this car needs a new front clip. Can you do that? Yeah, man, I think so.
Yeah.
Just as long as you can keep billing for my time, let's roll.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, they just kept stacking projects on me with, evolving complexity. And I never really backed down from any of them. I would, it's kind of thing, someone says, hey, man, you can build this fender. It's like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
I did that before.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. I mean, that's really interesting to do that.
You're up at 3 a.m, shaping metal in your head. So you get to work the next day and make it look like you're not an idiot. So
how were you starting out and building panels or whatever you were making? Did you have a lot of throwaway stuff, or were you catching on pretty quick?
I caught on pretty quick. There's always throwaway stuff.
Yeah.
You get too much shape in it too fast, or you're starting to get excessively work hardened or something like that. It's like, okay, I'm just gonna, or your pattern's not right on. Patterning is extremely important. If your pattern's off, your part's gonna be off.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there was stuff in the scrap bin. And
that's
I think
perfectly
that's
normal too.
That's how it goes at any shop. And
yeah,
guys in that environment and managers in that environment, they understand that to an extent. You can't spend 200 hours and throw it away, but if you've got a partial panel and it's just better to scrap it and start new rather than banging your head against the wall, it just makes sense. So
it sounds like you start to anticipate it before and go, no, this one's not going to work.
Yep. Yeah, that happens. It doesn't happen so much anymore, but periodically, you're like, man, I was rushing that. The pattern's not right. I'm just gonna start over, and or if your head's not in it, I mean, your head can be someplace else, and you're just better off going home and coming back the next day.
Yeah.
Some days. So.
Yeah. So that's a job that a lot of people would love to get into, early into their career and stuff when they're starting off in the industry, their first 5 years or so. And but you don't really hear about those jobs very easily. I mean, other than being from a school or anything like that. I mean, is that something that you think is easy to find, places like that, like a Ferrari shop like that?
No, I mean, what I've learned now is, in retrospect, everybody's hiring.
Oh yeah,
We all,
absolutely.
being an employer in the space,
Hmm.
everybody's always looking for good talent. So I honestly don't remember how that application process went, but I think I just either cold emailed them or called them and asked,
Uh-huh.
like, "Hey, this is where I'm at. This is what I want to do.
Yeah.
This is what I'm doing right now. Are there opportunities here?"
Hmm.
I had an interview and got the job. So a lot of times they're posted. They might be posted on their website, but not advertised.
Yeah.
Right? They're not on LinkedIn hunting you down or whatever.
Hmm.
They're a little more, casual about it, I
Yeah.
guess. Just kind of waiting for the right people because the right people tend to look.
Hmm.
So
Uh,
it was definitely a unique opportunity, though.
oh, for sure, for sure. I mean, you said they sent you to some training for Faye Butler, and
They did.
that makes me think of like any of the early like names like that really inspired you to continue on in that stuff. And for a lot of people, Faye is one of those people he's been in the industry for a long time. I did a podcast last month with him, a quick
Hmm.
one at the Detroit Autorama, so that was
Hmm.
great going over some history with him. But was there anybody else like that at the time that you would look up to, or that you might you'd get that inspiration from?
I've always been a guy that gets inspiration from a lot of different sources,
Hmm.
especially with with social media
Yeah.
around. I mean, you can find these sort of um, smaller shops doing amazing work. You're just like, wow, that's cool. Like I want to, like, you just see a part that's just appealing to your eye for whatever reason. You're like, I want to make that.
Yeah.
Um, Faye was definitely super important in like growing my knowledge of it.
Hmm.
I know the guys I worked with. One of them literally said, like, before and after, he's like, it's like you've been here 7 years longer,
Wow. Yeah.
in a transition of like 3 months.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So like going to phase like clicked a bunch of stuff in my brain
Hmm.
that made the metal shaping just exponentially easier for me.
Yeah.
In terms of inspiration, when I was watching TV and watching all those shows, all the car shows I found super inspiring. The motorcycle shows, the car shows, the Jesse James, the OCC.
Hmm.
The Saturday morning watching trucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Eating the cereal and
Hmm.
um, all that stuff. I would say is probably like the most dominant. Some of that predates me even getting into it, but it's always been there in my head.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so
And kind of getting back with with Faye Butler there, like the one of the things I know he likes to do is try to get you to think differently,
sure.
look at things differently,
Hmm.
and that's something I try to do even on the podcast is just get people's perspective with every person that we have on here, and just to think about these things differently. So that's something that I appreciate about what he does too.
Yeah, and it's super helpful. He gets way more into the metallurgy
Yeah.
than most of the guys out there
Hmm.
that are teaching metal shaping or coach building or um, and that was very helpful for me.
Yeah.
Um, so I appreciated that too, and I'm always open to. Um, I'm never like closed-minded, right?
Oh, for
So
sure. Yeah.
always open. I'm not the rightest.
Hmm.
There's a million ways to do it, and I'll try all of them,
Hmm.
even if sometimes I'll try the wrong way just to learn why.
Yeah.
Um, so I appreciate that as well.
Yeah, I mean that's something to if you can keep an open mind, it really will take you places because someone will surprise you with something you had no clue about or you weren't paying
Hmm.
attention to.
Yeah, for sure,
And
for
I'm
sure.
I'm sure in that being in that Ferrari shop like that, that was probably a constant thing, where somebody's showing you something else that you just wow, it
Yeah,
just shifts your whole perspective.
yeah. So you brought up inspiration. I didn't really touch on it, but being around those vehicles is in itself inspiring.
Mhm.
Um, so you've got cars from the 50s that were built by hand in Italy. with all sorts of, uniqueness about them, asymmetries, drastic asymmetries in some cases,
Yeah.
but but
Yeah.
they're beautiful nonetheless. And
Uh-huh.
some of that inspiration I really tapped into was those old guys.
Mhm.
Looking at the panel, like, oh, look, their hammer marks. What hammer were they using?
Yeah.
Why is this texture in the hammer mark?
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
was this built on a power hammer? Was this built on a wheel? Like, I just found that all super, super nerdy about all that.
I
But
do the
like
same. Yeah, it's great.
the
It's
step
great.
by step stuff, sort of forensic evidence that's left
Yeah.
over. I got
100%.
I get into all that nerdiness.
It's like they
So
left their fingerprint behind, and even though one body, the bodies look similar, when you're digging into it and you're hands on it, you get to see all the differences. And this person, like you said, was hammering here. You got all the hammer marks, and you're like, man, why were they, what were they doing right here?
yeah, for sure. Yeah. Or, oh my gosh, it must have been a hurry. Like,
Yeah.
this is a race car,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
wasn't meant to be,
Mhm.
rolled around on the grass with a bunch of guys in suits looking at it. It was meant to hit the pavement. So,
Oh yeah, no, none of these cars were by any stretch of the means as perfect as we think they would be.
oh my gosh, no.
You'd see some pick marks behind the panel, and you're like, man, somebody had some trouble here at one point.
That's par for the course. I mean, that's pretty much everything. Those cars were all filed,
Yeah.
all picked and filed.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that stuff was super super cool to me as I was learning, and I could duplicate that too.
Mhm.
If I was working on a panel, I wanted to, in many cases, try to make it match what was there. I mean,
Mhm.
to an extent, I couldn't physically. I mean, I could, but it wasn't always practical to do exactly what they did.
Yeah, yeah.
But I tried to duplicate, welds where they put the welds and type of welds they used, and
Well, isn't that funny? Because like, yeah, so when it comes to a true restoration,
mhm,
and I'm going by definition of duplicating the way the car originally came.
mhm.
And that is a whole other world. There's the custom side, like there's the custom cars and building cool panels and all that, but to duplicate, and everyone knows like duplicating overspray and stuff like that, but like
Sure.
you dig into those panels on these cars, every single one of them was different, to the point of like you better have had like a Polaroid of that car after it was brand new, because like they were all different.
Yeah. And I mean, I cannot tell you how many hours I spent sitting at the workbench looking at period correct pictures.
Oh man, yeah.
I get, scaling and like, you got dividers out and like, just, you got to rebuild this front clip, but there's no evidence other than this like 2x4, like
Yeah.
photograph,
Uh-huh.
and recreating all of that with what they did originally in mind is its own animal. It's different because people are judging it,
Yeah.
right? When you build a custom car,
Mm-hmm.
they don't have a point of reference. It's either badass or it's not.
Mm-hmm.
When you build the front clip of a high end collector car like a Ferrari or something like that,
Yeah.
the judges are judging it, and they're
Mm-hmm.
judging you, and they're judging your work, and they're judging its accuracy, and
Yeah.
so it's a little different.
And that's what drives me crazy is the accuracy part. Because it's
Yeah,
like, again, they were all different. We've worked on enough of these cars that like
yeah,
I love seeing like there was I don't know when this time period ended, where like the documentation of the cars was not, especially when production came into play. Uh, well, maybe I'm saying that wrong. Maybe early production, where like information on the car was written with a crayon.
yeah.
Y-
Yeah.
You know,
There's a build sheet with scribbles on it. Yeah,
yeah, I think early '60s Corvettes, and if somebody listening, please correct me if I'm wrong, because I've gone through this with a couple cars, where the paint code wasn't on the car; it was written behind the seat inside the trunk. and written with, I say crayon, right? But it was,
Yeah.
whatever they were using
Sure. I know
to
what you're saying though.
and
Yeah.
and so all it takes is one restoration on that car, somebody to not take a picture, somebody to not document it, and to completely strip that car down, and now you lost what the original color was that car for that car.
Sure.
And so like I just think about how crude a lot of that stuff was, because they didn't think that we were going to be doing what we do now to these cars and spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to bring one back to life or recreate an old one.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, part of that was the volume of production was so much smaller than it is today, obviously, and less refined, and so much more was done by hand, and decisions were made on the fly.
Yeah.
In so many cases, like, oh, we just got word that Jim Bob wants a blue one, so let's make it blue.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I find that interesting too, because I do like when I see handwritten stuff on the car, I get excited because I'm like, man, who was this person like back then that was doing this? And
right. Yeah. Yeah, I know. What does that scribble mean? Periodically on the backside of panels, I've seen, you'll see the measurement marks, or you'll see them scribble out some notes that they were taking on something.
Yeah.
And I always found that's super cool too, because they're totally hidden. They're on the side of a cowl or underneath a panel somewhere you never see. But it's neat to come across that stuff.
I want it back on there. That's the thing,
Right? I know, yeah. And there have been some cars where we found some of that stuff and we preserved it. There have been cars where we were able to preserve original paint in areas that wasn't, sanded and restored.
Yeah.
You'd never know it was there, but under this certain part, we saved a paint sample for the next guy.
Yeah.
We'd stash some of the original stuff and leave it in there. Because the further you get down the line, the harder it is to research some of this stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And if you got lucky on some of these cars where they did a terrible job undercoating the bottom of the car, terrible as in they didn't sand it, which preserved the paint underneath it. I've ran into that a bunch of times, and
sure.
And it looks brand new. The undercoating's peeling off like nothing, but you see the original color.
Yeah.
Shiny.
Yeah.
I semi-gloss, but
just saw that yesterday on a car that's being refinished right now. It is super cool. They're like, hey, check this out. We were able to save this little strip, and this is the original factory color. And I'm like, wow, you guys nailed it.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's like, it's cool. So, I think the people who get in deep into restoration really kind of get into that, the nerdy nuances of that stuff,
And that's not for everyone, because some people can't stand it. I have my moments where I'm like, this is so specific, like, and I've worked on some very specific cars like that where it has to be this way right here. You're gonna have to recreate some overspray with a tape line right here, and it's something that's simple can become complicated.
For sure.
And that's just that avenue right there. And there's some great people out there that they know how to document it or find the documentation to recreate that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, so there's that side of things. Which side of it do you prefer, actually? Do you like more of the custom side? Do you like that restoration side?
I'm kind of in the middle. I like to do both. I like the freedom of making custom stuff, at least in terms of from a fabricator perspective. I like to kind of be able to do what I want, and but when you're doing something like a historic car that has to be a certain way, I like that aspect too. It just kind of creates some different confines for you to work within, which and that's where you can appreciate the nerdy nuance of the guy who was there before and try to duplicate that because he did it right.
Yeah.
So I'm a little bit of both. Right now, I've got custom projects. I'm doing less restoration, although, I am, knee deep in a rusted German car. But I've also got custom projects as well. So I like them both. I kind of need as much variety as possible right now within the career, because I need to keep it interesting.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Variety definitely keeps things interesting. That's for sure.
Yep.
One thing I noticed too is you seem to work on a lot of aluminum bodies.
Yeah.
And there's steel panels, all that kind of stuff. But the aluminum body world, it's definitely it's interesting to see a lot of the people out there that are specializing in these aluminum bodied cars.
Sure. Yeah.
And
So with being in the Ferrari stuff, I kind of started with steel,
uh-huh.
and then went into aluminum, and I think I prefer shaping aluminum. It's just a little softer. There's some, welding issues you can run into, but um, I enjoy it. I kind of like, that's probably my favorite aspect of car building is like building aluminum body shapes. Not like that.
So, working on aluminum bodies and everything, how much different would you say obviously we're talking two different welding modes there, right? And when you compare the two, and whether it's hammer and dolly techniques and all that, and saying you prefer with aluminum, how much is it more? Would you say it's more forgiving? Would you say it's I don't want to say easier, but I've worked on some aluminum body cars myself, and there were certain aspects that I did like. What was?
Yeah, that's if you have the right tools, the materials, move pretty easy. I think I can probably make aluminum panels faster than I can make the equivalent sized steel panel. So I like that aspect of it. I typically TIG either steel or aluminum. So the hammer and dolly aspect, or planishing hammer wheel, whatever we're using to put it back. It's comparable, but I don't know. I migrate to the material more than steel. It doesn't rust.
Yeah.
That's another thing, right? It doesn't start to look, crummy if you got a little moisture in the air in your shop.
Yeah, especially for me down here in South Florida.
Yeah. So I think I lost track of what the question was.
Oh, so as far as doing aluminum, actually, I think I'm gonna change my question a little bit.
Sure.
Because you brought up TIG welding.
Yep.
I see a lot of people doing a lot of the torch welding. What are the benefits, one versus the other?
I can torch weld. I tend to migrate to TIG welding. I believe it's a cleaner process. The advantage of torch welding is that there's a very large heat affected but fully annealed zone, right? Whereas as you switch to TIG, that annealed heat affected zone gets smaller. I've never had any issues with cracking and things of that nature. Keep your panels clean, keep your rods clean. TIG, you got to flow the backside. That's a downside. Torch welding, you don't typically have to do that if you're good at it. Some of the guys that built a ton of bodies back in the day would just fusion weld everything and roll it through the wheel once and it's back to normal. So I mean, I haven't been that proficient with it. I've got a body sitting, well, I just shipped it out, but I did that whole body with a laser welder just because I wanted to try it.
Wow.
And that was an eye-opening experience for me, because I was surprised at how much I liked using it.
And I definitely want to get with you on the laser.
We can talk on that probably extensively. It's kind of controversial. It seems like one of those things that people are like, "Why are you using that?" But I did it because I wanted to learn the technology, and I think on that whole body had 6 inches of TIG weld on it because I screwed up and I blasted a big hole in it. I was just like, okay, well, I gotta fix this. But there's some downsides to it. There's a learning curve to it. But what I did like about the laser is the heat affected zone is tiny. The heat input into your panel is, you can almost touch it right away. And nearly no grinding, So like TIG welding, there's always some level of like surface reduction that you have to do.
Yeah.
I could lay coupons on the bench, weld them with the laser, and run them through the English wheel or the planishing hammer, tool of your choice, and you wouldn't even have to grind it. You could prime right over the top of it.
Wow. Which you mentioned the backside of the panel when you're TIG welding, and making sure that weld is, I forget how you describe that, but
so we typically you weld the top and then flow the backside, so that because it tends to create sort of you may have penetration back there, but it's got for lack of a better term, it's got a butt crack, right?
Yeah.
As we all call it, and you got to flow those together, and most guys do that. You don't always have access to the backside, like if you're already welding it on the car, but if I have full access, I'll flow the backside.
And when you say flow the backside, just for the listeners and stuff, are you talking about like, are you changing the settings on the or however you're setting up the machine, you're getting that fusion on the backside? Are you purging the backside? Like, what is it that you're
physically flipping the part over, and just I don't really change the settings, because you've got throttle on the foot pedal, just enough to get it to wet in and flow across the length of the weld, just to make sure it's fully. Then you guarantee your penetration, right?
Yeah,
that's ultimately what you're doing.
Which is a great one, because I think a lot of people who TIG weld aluminum, they know exactly the butt crack you're talking about.
Yeah.
And it is an important one to consider.
For sure. And if you don't do it and you have to do any post work, there's pretty good likelihood you'll crack it. Interesting. So the TIG welder, or I'm sorry, the laser welder, I did some tests first. I'm like, I want to see how strong this is. And I did not flow any backside or anything like that. I just, from the top, laid it on the bench, welded like 12 inches, and I just beat the living daylights out of it with a hammer extensively, and it didn't crack.
Wow.
I was like, really? So, my opinion, this is not based on any like scientific fact or like stress testing, but I think the laser weld is stronger than the TIG weld.
Wow. That's impressive for you to say that.
That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Does it mean I'm going to use it for everything? No. But there's an application there, and I think guys who are doing this work may want to at least explore it, because it saved me I bet on this last body I built, it saved me probably 20 hours of grinding time.
That's man, everything, when you look at the grand scheme of it, anywhere we can do that, and body work, paint work,
if you're quoting a body, if you're building a body on a quote and you can save yourself days worth of work, it's worth the investigation. Now, that said, they're not cheap. But they're getting to the point where, there are some cheaper models. I think the one I have here when it was brand new was like 30 grand. But there are others.
How was the backside of the panel on the laser welder?
So, there was a little, like, I'll describe it this way: a little bit of scavenging from the backside, pulled into the weld, and then on the top side, there's a little, positive mound from the fed-in wire, right? It's very minimal. Your weld bead is 1/10 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch wide, right? So there was a little bit of scavenging, but by the time you planished and hammered it back out, it was back to neutral.
That's awesome.
So I was okay with that. I was happy with the penetration. It was always penetrated. I think there were a few spots where, I was learning the settings on the machine, right? Because obviously it's totally new to me, where I had to go back over and just make sure the backside was fully penetrated. But that was kind of sorted out by the time I got done with the body. So
Yeah, and I know the argument of whether, MIG, TIG, laser, and people thinking that the laser is gonna, replace some things. Man, I don't see it. I see it as it's another tool. It's another
it is
one to
another
add in
tool.
there.
It's not gonna you're not gonna sell your TIG welder, and you're not gonna sell your torch,
Yeah.
right? I mean, there's a time and a place for all of those.
Hmm.
And it's project dependent, it's customer dependent, um, and it's material dependent, right?
Yeah.
So it's just another tool in the kit, and I'm always want to add some knowledge. So
Yeah.
whether or not I continue to use it, I think I probably will on certain things.
Yeah.
I just did a little fillet weld with it the other day. Just for a quick kind of thing that I had to do for a chrome shop, and it worked great. I could weld on the panel. It didn't distort, didn't do anything. Like the heat input, that's probably the biggest advantage, is that the heat input is so low.
Wow.
You know, um,
I
so
really look at a lot of that stuff. You mentioned the time savings, the potential time savings, right?
mhm.
And that's okay. What would you rather do? Would you rather sit there and grind for 20 hours, or would you rather get closer to the finish line?
Right. Yeah, I was able to kind of put it back where I needed, um, through various planishing methods, and
Hmm.
then quick sand, and I was on to the next part. So
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean,
wherever you can move the needle, you should, in
and
my
but
opinion.
and I look at it from the standpoint of like, okay, the time of grinding and all that. And however, everyone's different, right? But I look at it as like that's fatigue on the body, grinding, all that kind of stuff. We do it, that's great. But anything that could also preserve us in the process is good for you.
For sure.
And
Yeah,
that's
this is a physically demanding career path,
yeah,
and you know, it's worn out a lot of bodies over the years. So
it
whatever you
has.
can do to not wear out is pretty cool.
That's just when I think about a lot of these things, I don't come at it as just like a technical aspect like that. It's like, well, does this process keep me from doing something different? Like is it gonna keep me from again, you're if you're gonna grind for 20 hours, that's grinding 20 hours of, in some cases heavy.
Yeah.
Because I see, not just in the metal shaping world, you see these guys that are like building tubing and stuff like that, and that laser rips through.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. I think certain industries, it's going to replace. I would like to see it deployed effectively on custom exhaust, and header building, and um, those are going to be some of my next experiments with it when I get some of the project caught up to that point here, because I mean, I think you could really do some nice work with it, honestly.
yeah, yeah.
So
So that's been something that you've been able to, or you're in the process of integrating that into your business now.
the TIG welder, I'm
The
sorry,
the laser.
yeah, it's here. It's actually on loan from a customer,
Okay.
and they're just like, hey, we can't use it for what we anticipated. The gun is a bit clunky. That's
Mm-hmm.
like probably the biggest downside, is that a small TIG torch is very, very friendly to your hand and gets in a lot of tight places.
Yeah.
The laser gun, um, is a bit awkward.
Mm-hmm.
It's just bigger in scale, so using in tight places is not yet applicable. But
Uh huh.
I think the scale of some of these things will come down as well.
Yeah, yeah, that's with everything. Every time a new technology comes out like that, it just it gets better, it gets more honed, and then
Hmm.
eventually, I'm sure a smaller. I mean, what you said, it's a gun, right? It's not really a torch.
Yeah, no, it's a gun that shoots a laser. It has a safety on it to where it won't shoot unless it's physically in contact with your material, because the material has a it's not a ground, but it's a sensor that's attached to the panel. So if it breaks continuity, it won't weld. So it's safety. I mean, the safety is a concern. The optics of it, not all the wavelengths are visible. There's some safety. I work in a shop by myself right now, so it's less of a concern for me. But I think in an environment where there's a lot of people working, there's some hazards to be aware of. There are parts of the laser that deflect off of the material that you don't see, and you don't want that going in your eye. So if somebody's listening and wants to like figure this out, just follow all applicable safety procedures.
Yeah.
I try to here, but technically, a lot of places in manufacturing environments, it has to be in its own room.
So stepping away from welding, because we can talk about that forever. Going back into some of the shaping stuff, is your background as far as using like a wheel or some of this other equipment, like what is it you're based out of? Do you prefer the power hammer, or you mix?
I've had all of it. I prefer the wheel. The power hammers are very, very effective and very, very efficient. They're very loud. That's probably my biggest concern with them. But working in a shop full of guys, the power hammer is not particularly pleasant, with 5 other guys in the shop when you're running that thing wide open for 6 months. I'm just more of a mellow guy. I like the wheel. It does what I want it to do. It's just more of a zen sort of process to me than, using a power hammer to shape metal is very it's aggressive, right? For lack of a better term. It's
no,
just
it
bang,
is.
bang, 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 and it beats the living crap out of it. You can do it with immense precision, and in the right hands, very delicately. Even though it's a violent process. So, by all means, it's for some, but it's not my favorite method. And I sold my hammer, and I'm just kind of sticking to the wheel. It's more mobile. I moved my shop a couple times, and moving a double-headed yoder wasn't very fun. So I just kind of resigned to the wheel. I have an Eckhold craft former too, which works really well for rough shaping on aluminum. So I guess me personally, that's sort of my happy place. It depends on the material, but if I'm building an aluminum body, the wheel, the Eckhold, planishing hammer, I'd kind of jump around between those 3 items.
How long did it take you to get comfortable with the wheel?
I'm still not totally comfortable.
Yeah. It's forgiving though compared to the power hammer.
Yeah, it can be. You can also mess stuff up really fast. One minor tension adjustment in the wrong spot, you can ruin your whole panel. Because it can be hard to get out. If you accidentally kick the tensioner and mid pass and you put a big bump in your panel, it's kind of like, well, now what? You have options. You can heat shrink it out. You can do a few things, but it's always a learning curve. Sometimes I'll be away from it for a while, and you kind of gotta relearn, right? If you're in chassis building mode and you're in exhaust mode and custom interior fabrication mode, and you put down the wheel for a little while and come back to it 6 months later, you get a little rusty and you kind of gotta get back into it. I've learned little things about the wheel. If you do it quiet, very subtle, you can start to pick on very subtle little changes in tone, or very subtle vibrations, or very subtle waves wiggling through the panel that you see in the light that you don't know about when you're first new to it. There's all these, it's a full sensory experience. it's not just rolling it back and forth. It's listening, it's feeling, it's rolling where you need to roll it. It's
Yeah.
looking at the light. I mean, it's a full body sensory
Mm-hmm.
experience when you really do it a lot.
Yeah.
You start to pick up on those nuances.
That's I think anything you do at a high level, you start picking up on just those minute things that the general person may never pick up on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, if you're blocking a car, there's sounds you're going to get used to. And I'm not saying
Sure.
that they're necessarily going to be the ones that help you for, something in specific. You're wet sanding a car and you hear a little squeal, in that sandpaper. You're going to feel it a little bit, and you're going to
Yep.
know there's something in there that's causing some damage.
Yep. Yeah. You just turned 600 grit into
Yeah.
50 grit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's cool to hear. That is that, because I feel like that on all the aspects is once you hone in on something, you're gonna pick up details that it's like, your spidey senses start going off on the smallest things.
Yeah, for sure. And it just takes time with the tools or the material or whatever you're working on. I mean, that's where, a decade or 20 years or whatever of passing material in and out of that tool makes you pretty tuned into different things. So.
Yeah. Well, we'll switch off from some of this metal shaping talk and all that, because I'd love to. There's more to you that that I've seen just over seeing your social media and all that stuff. And I actually want to get behind. You got a coffee brand, Motovator.
Yeah, I started that recently.
Okay. What made you jump into that world?
So, we had talked a little bit earlier. I had gone through a business partnership sort of breakup that threw me for a loop and kind of put me into an odd spot. Kind of felt pretty burned out on the car business for a little while. And I was just kind of thinking, like, man, I want to do something. I want to try. I want a new mountain to climb, right? Like, what is something I can get into that ties into what I'm doing, but it's a little different, and give back in a certain way. So, Lord knows where these ideas come from, right? When you have an idea, like, where did it come from?
Yeah,
it wasn't like I was like, I'm destined to, I had this idea for the coffee brand came into my head, and it's sort of like the black rifle of the automotive community, right? Or beyond that, cars, motorcycles, planes, everything that's connected to it. Like a coffee brand that bridges all of that enthusiast culture, finds a way to give back to it. We're building partnerships with some nonprofits to where, as the business becomes more profitable, we can help support some craft-based education programs and apprenticeships and stuff like that. So
that's awesome.
It's an idea, and I mean, it's in its infancy. I kind of started like anybody does, like testing an idea. I'm like, okay, well, that had enough traction to make me not quit. So I'm going to keep going with it. And every time I hit that point, I'm like, oh, there's enough traction to not quit.
Yeah.
So now, my initial thought with it was, drop ship, direct to consumer business. And what I found is the cost of customer acquisition with the cost of meta marketing and all that stuff makes it pretty difficult to make it financially viable. There are people that have done it successfully, but it's even some of those businesses, once they get successful, they switch over to retail, and then their D2C goes down and they start focusing more on retail.
Yeah.
What happened recently, maybe few months ago, we were contacted by...
Well, let's take a quick break and thank one of this episode's sponsors, Sada. I've been working with them for over 10 years, which is a crazy thought for me, but it's awesome because I relied on them day to day. They really set a standard in our industry. Most people know Sada for spray guns, but they do a lot more, including compressed air filtration, breathing protection, and they're known for their high quality.
SADA's been working closely with painters across multiple industries, maintaining the strong relationships in the paint world you've known them for. They put a lot of investment in research and development, working along skilled technicians to deliver the tools professionals like us know, trust, and rely on. SADA's quality isn't just a slogan, it's built on the reliability, durability, ergonomics that come standard with everything they make. And with a global network of trusted distributors, SADA ensures service that truly lives up to the name. Learn more at sadausa.com. Now, let's get back to this conversation.
By a retail broker, and they're like, we've been watching your brand. We really love the branding. We love the idea. We'd like to work with you to see if we can get it into some retail outlets. And after some research and diligence on the organization, I'm like, let's give it a shot. So it's kind of what we're into now. We're in the midst of conversations with, I think we got 27, 30 conversations, something like that going on with retailers large and small, shipping out samples. And hopefully pretty soon we know if any of these folks are gonna jump on board and place a PO, and maybe we can scale this up a little bit. So
yeah,
that's where we're at. It's nerve wracking. It's exciting. It's like anytime you have a business idea, it's like, you weigh the time, you weigh the financial input that you have to put into it. There's just so much, and then there's diving into a new thing for me totally has been good for my mind, because I like the learning process. It's like, what can I get into where I'm going to learn the most stuff?
Yeah.
Because once the learning curve tapers off for me, it starts to turn into work, and that's kind of what the car business has felt like for a little while. And that's why I'm being very selective about the work I'm working on and like who I'm working with. And it's all got to be right for me to want to do it. Otherwise, I need to switch gears in order to keep the enthusiasm.
Well, I like how you started with, what you were really, again, this is something that I talk about on the podcast ad nauseum, is the call for adventure.
Yep.
That you were answering that. You an idea came into your head, and you reacted to it. Like the reaction to it, and to figure out if this is something that could be part of your journey in this world. Like that's I love that. Like this podcast is based on the same thing. It's that call for adventure. It's a lot of times I go into this and I usually don't have notes. I usually go on a whim on something. And when we did this Detroit show, and it was just like, it was on a whim. It was like, I'm going to try this. I'm going to do this. And it's just trusting in yourself and knowing that you have this, and actually, and believing in that.
Yep.
And I think even if it's something new and you don't know, but you have to figure it out. As long as you believe in yourself, you will answer that call, and you'll figure it out.
For sure. And there stands to reason that anything that you jump into might fail, or you might fail and then figure out where you went wrong and do it again. So I've never been afraid of that. I think I've always been entrepreneurial. It took me till a little later in life to like go full bore. I have my own shop now for, I think we're going on 11 years, 12 years. So
that's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah,
man.
I just, the call for adventure, that's probably the best way to put it, because I get bored and I need, I need some stuff to like keep it interesting.
And I feel like we need that all as a whole. And maybe not for everyone, right? Like, but you've been doing metal shaping, and of course there's always something you can learn in it. But you eventually will develop a pretty strong core. And then the same thing with maybe you're doing some interior work, maybe all these different things that you've spent your time on throughout your career. You answered the call, right? On all these different things, whether it was going to the Ferrari shop or, you know, every chance you had, you were answering that call. And then whether you mastered it or you got to a certain point that you felt comfortable with what you learned in that process, and eventually, yeah, you get to that point where, okay, yeah, I know my standards on this. I have a process. I can get to that. And then it's like the call comes again.
Yeah.
That's what I feel like it happens. And uh, however it is that it comes towards you, uh, you know, because you said you don't know where it came from. You know, it just happens.
Yep.
And I actually wonder about that too, because I think that's kind of like part of creativity. You know, like a creative mind will find these things, but it's
Mhm.
almost like these things find you, and you're not sure how, but it just happens.
Yep.
Uh, and I think those are, well, especially if you can recognize it, that's awesome, man. Like I love hearing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it. It's not without its challenges,
For sure.
Like you start a small business, you're like, oh, okay, well, it's, you know, you're looking at your margins. You're like, how do they get on the shelf for that cheap
Hmm.
at the grocery store? It's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, I gotta, you know, it's like those things come with scale. How do you get from point A to point B?
Hmm.
How do you build a brand out of nothing?
Hmm.
Bootstrap it yourself. Like it's just, I mean, it's all of that is really interesting to
Hmm.
me, and when I figure that out, I'll probably follow another call,
Well,
but,
and I
but
think,
right now it's just feeding my curiosity.
yeah, and I think that the call, it's like it's uncomfortable, but it's like an escape from comfort,
Yep.
because you can get
Yeah.
real comfortable. Like you can spend the next 10 years doing the same exact thing.
Yep. Yeah,
And
no, I have a deeply ingrained, like, I don't know if it came from my family. My family was self-employed. Like, I just have this deeply ingrained need to keep moving.
yeah.
So for better or worse, it probably drives my wife nuts. She's like Mrs. Steady, like,
Yeah.
but that's some people are that way, and that's
Hmm.
that's
That's
great.
fine. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of wish I was.
Hmm.
It was sometimes,
Yeah.
because you put yourself in situations sometimes that don't work out
Oh
by
yeah.
following the call,
Yeah.
and it's sometimes they work out
That's part of the
amazingly
journey
well, and
though.
sometimes you just smash your face like right into the wall.
Yeah, that's part of it.
So
That's part of the adventure. You know,
yep.
you'll look back at that and like reminisce on those days where you were beating your head on the wall, and they
Yeah.
were fine. You still made it through that thing.
Yeah. So my decision tree is always the same. It's, am I going to regret not doing this?
Yeah.
When I'm 85 and I'm sitting in my rocker, just kind
Hmm.
of waiting for my grandkids to come over.
Yeah.
What am I going to regret
Hmm.
missing out on?
No, that's
And
that's
that's kind of where I choose my path.
yeah. So then, as far as the motivator coffee and what you want it to support, you know, you're talking about helping programs, schools and stuff like that.
Hmm. Yeah. So we built a partnership with the RPM Foundation, straight away. They've been super supportive of the idea. Like, hey, man, yeah, that's awesome. This is what we do. They support apprenticeship programs primarily. And the reason they support, sort of craft-based apprenticeship programs, and they also help support employers to bring in people to train,
Hmm.
right? So they have a program where they help reimburse employers train new hires, specifically in our field. I mean, they're very focused on the restoration environment.
Wow. Okay.
I just really appreciate their model. They do that because they want to focus on industry retention. Whereas, and I'm not downplaying these. These are still great programs. There are other programs that fund scholarships
Hmm.
for, whether it's tech school or college institutions that train people for restoration or hot rod building and stuff like that.
Hmm.
A lot of times they find that those kids go through the program. They may have gotten a scholarship, but they wind up in business, or they wind up in insurance, or that, you know what I mean? They work for
Mhm. An
Barrett
unrelated.
Jackson or something, but
Okay.
they're not doing the work, which
Yeah.
is what these foundations want. Like their goal is to make sure the hobby continues, right? They, if you're a Bentley collector and, your son wants to inherit your collection and, carry that tradition forward, your son needs people to work on that stuff.
Mhm.
And, that's sort of their mission, is making sure that, you know, the hobby stays alive,
So as far as the foundations that you want to work with, is that what your ultimate goal is for that? Like to stick in that realm, or do you plan on broadening?
I think in time I'll broaden it.
Yeah.
For now, I want to have partnerships in place to where I can start.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I've also talked to what's it called, Lost Angels.
I was just gonna mention them too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've also talked to Lost Angels, and they're a different type of program. They're working with inner city and underprivileged
Mhm.
kids or young
Youth.
adults,
Yeah.
youth, kids that came from troubled backgrounds, all kinds of stuff. And I mean, that I think is very valid.
Yeah.
And they may not stay in the automotive community, but a lot of those guys are going into aerospace
Mhm.
and landing really good jobs. So
Yeah.
I'm all on board with that stuff too. So
Yeah.
time will tell where it goes.
Mhm.
But those are my interests.
Yeah, we actually met Aaron at SEMA this past year.
Okay.
We did we my wife Connie, she
Mm-hmm.
actually is in the industry. She does very high end body work and paint work at a restoration shop in town,
Mm-hmm.
and they go over very specific stuff. So her and I were at I can't remember the name of that specific event, but we actually ended up getting to get to know them and talk to a lot of the students.
Mm-hmm.
She does a page called the Working Class Women that helps promote women in the industry,
Okay.
specifically automotive.
Yep.
And so there was a bunch of the girls that were in the Los Angeles that were there for this speaking event that they had, and so she was able to ask a question that was specific to the women that really hit home for them, and it was such a great experience we had with them, and we're working on some stuff here in the future with Los Angeles,
Awesome.
and I love that. I love that kind of stuff where those of us who've been doing what we're doing in the industry to help give back to it doesn't even have to be underprivileged youth or anything. I love that program. I think that's awesome. But just getting people into this,
For
getting
sure.
people to be exposed to it.
I think, and I think there's going to be a sort of a migration into skilled trades. I think part of that is AI changing the employment landscape,
Yeah.
but I also think there's something missing from a lot of people's work where
Mhm.
they can see a tangible result.
Yeah.
And whether it's cars or motorcycles or cabinetry or anything, where stained glass, like
Yeah.
any artisanal sort of work, I
Mhm.
think is going to be more attractive
Yeah.
to people moving forward. Um,
I think
just
something that
because things are
helps
changing,
something that helps facilitate the creative mind that everyone
Mhm.
has, but it gets locked away in a lot of people.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think education and work kind of forces it out of a lot of people.
Mhm.
The traditional education system isn't really designed to build creative people. It's
Yeah.
designed to build productive members of a team.
Mhm.
Creative problem solving is part of that, but so much uh, of the way the school systems are, it's kind of they pull a lot of the creativity out because it's hard to to grade,
Yeah.
right? Like it's hard to
Yeah.
assess,
Yeah.
and how do you fund schools based on their creativity levels? You don't. You fund schools based on their grades
Yeah.
of their
Yeah. The
students. So
result, what's that
the
end
result.
result,
Yep.
you know?
Yep.
Are you creating uh potential employment for an industry,
Yeah.
or do you have one person in the class that makes it, you know, at the end of the year out of 70 students?
Yeah.
You know, the schools are looking at that too. You know,
For sure.
they don't really know about the stuff we're doing.
Yeah.
And
True.
so, you know, if the results aren't looking good, they're going to stray away from it.
Yeah. 100%.
But not to get into that, because I love what you're doing with, I love that what your goal is for that brand.
Yeah. It's to go deeper. You know, it's
Mhm.
not just building something that sits on the shelf. I think there are definitely brands that have existed out there where it was, it was something shiny and cool, but there wasn't really much connectivity to anything,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I'm going for. I
Mhm.
mean, I'm a real craftsman doing real work, trying to support a legit cause,
Yeah.
while also building a profitable business.
Mhm.
That's the goal. A little
Absolutely.
bit of
Yeah.
everything. So,
No, that's great.
yeah,
That's what everyone should aspire to that. You
yeah,
know, if you're going to be build a business, and you know, it goes to say, like, even if if you're building a business and you're not really like going for the schools or anything like that to help, you know, even in your own team, to help them, to bring people up, to rise them up to the occasion and
sure,
create something together. Like
yeah,
that's inspiring right there. That's something that we should all push for, you know, not just make it about you,
yeah.
and make it about the people that are going to be in your circle, or who is it that you want to inspire and add to that.
Yeah.
So
What do they say? A rising tide lifts all boats.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
go that route.
mm-hmm,
So,
yeah. So I think that with the skill set you have, combining that with the brand that you're creating, and that opens up the avenue for you to show, uh, you get to show your firsthand experience to people that may never have been exposed to it before through your brand.
yeah, for sure.
So that's very cool that you're doing that, and I really hope that that is something that continues to move forward for you.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it. I think it will. Time will tell.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'll keep you in the loop for sure.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
thanks for ordering a bag. I'll get some more
Oh
sent for you.
yeah, yeah. I actually just finished it today.
Right
Uh,
on. Cool,
so
man.
so then if let's say somebody who is listening right now and they're part of some kind of program, and they want to see if they want to contact you to
Sure.
see how maybe you guys can collaborate, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
I'd go to my Instagram, which is you can go to Austin Paruch on Instagram or Motovator Inc. on Instagram. That's probably the best place. Otherwise, there's a contact form on the Motovator website, and that's just motovator.com.
Okay,
That's MOTO.
cool.
Yep.
Well, I have one last question for you,
Yes, sir.
and it's because we've brushed up on this already. And I try to remember this question at most of my episodes. I don't always hit it though. Uh, where do you think your creativity comes from?
Oof. Uh, I think it's just that's a really good question. Um, whether it's some sort of divine input
Mm-hmm.
or a combination of, you know, intellect, divine input, and life experience.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. My mom's creative. She's an artist.
Yeah.
My, like I said earlier, my parents were self-employed. Um, so I think it's from our environment. I think it's from, some sort of realm that we can't see, whether
Mm-hmm.
you view that as spiritual or God or whatever
Yeah.
belief system you have. There's something beyond us,
Mm-hmm.
and I think to a limited extent, I think ideas are floating around and they kind of pass through a lot of people. It's
Yeah.
just whoever they land in is willing to take the action.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can't see them, but I feel like there's an energy sort of,
Yeah.
this sounds really woo woo, but
No,
some sort
no.
of, I don't know how to describe it. But
Hey,
you know, you might be washing the dishes and be like, man, that'd be a great name for a beer.
yeah.
And you're like, wait
Uh-huh.
a minute, like I wasn't even thinking about that, you know? So where did that come from? I'm not sure. But I think there's something non-visible that we have access to. We
Yeah.
kind of choose how we interact with it.
Yeah, when you said the woo woo word, yeah, I'm not. You're in good company, because trust me, that's where when I say the call for adventure, it's coming from
Yeah.
the same place.
Yep. 100%.
It's something that we all go through it. I think there's a lot of things that distract us from it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things that quiet that down,
Yeah. For
and
sure.
sometimes it passes through you really fast. And
Yep.
you know, depending on where you're at in your life, depending on the things that are going on, you can hear it louder sometimes than others.
Yep.
But if you can hear it, you should listen to it. You should pay attention.
Yeah. Paying attention, I think, is key
Mhm.
because I think you can easily dismiss a lot of that stuff as just random thoughts.
Yeah,
But I think
they're not.
I
They're
think
not.
if you're listening and it's like, wait a minute, if I take action on it, it's no longer a random thought.
Yeah,
It's an idea that was looking for a place to propagate itself.
yeah, yeah.
So
The more I do this
yeah, that's
podcast, the more that becomes
you
true.
could build a podcast just on that.
100%.
So, dude, I appreciate the call and the chat, man.
Yeah, no, this is great. Austin, one last time, where can people find you?
Yes, Austin underscore Paruch. That's with a CH on Instagram. Motovator Inc. on Instagram and motovator.com.
Awesome. Well, man, this is great, and I think it'll definitely help inspire someone out there.
Awesome, man. It's been fun.
Yeah. Thanks again for listening to the Automotive Artistry Podcast. Hopefully you got something out of this conversation, whether it was inspiration, motivation, or just hearing how somebody else approaches the work. If this episode inspired you, one way you can help us is by following, sharing, and leaving a review. It helps our podcast tremendously. Another way you can help support the podcast is by heading over to our online store, aworkingclass.bigcartel.com. You can find us on Instagram at Automotive Artistry Podcast, Automotive Practitioner, and The Working Class Women. We appreciate all of you listening. Let's get on to the next episode.